monitor species at risk? So let's talk about a couple different species. I know that you guys, you're all super smart. You answered our questions in the last 2 weeks really fast. If you were with us in our first week when we learned about American eel, you would have seen one of these traps that they put out into our rivers and our streams to catch the eel, and then they can tag them so they can find them later. We also learned from Melissa about our whitefish and how they are monitored through a combination of angling and electrofishing, which is super cool. And if you've been out with Young Naturalists Club and you've been birding, you know that we monitor birds in a few ways. As citizen scientists, we look for them, we listen to them, but scientists have a lot more tools than we do, right? So let's see what you guys know about some common, or maybe not so common species we have in Nova Scotia. What do you guys think about this? This is a Canada warbler. How do you think scientists might monitor for a species like this? You can go ahead, put your ideas in the chat. You can think about it. How do we monitor for birds? There's a couple ways. Yeah, so we use sight, sound, we go out and look for them. Some scientists also use traps. They will net birds in the forest. And of course, you guys probably know about tags. I'm hoping we're going to learn more about those next week when we're joined by some friends at Birds Canada. What about this animal? This is a moose. How do scientists monitor for moose? Oh yeah, I see some good suggestions here. Leg tags, binoculars. Yeah, you guys know a lot about our wildlife. Moose are a little trickier though, right? Can't really net them like birds. There are a couple ways that we monitor moose, depending on where they are in the province. We have two kinds of moose. Tags, so you can tranquilize moose and tag them, find them later. Aerial video is really big for large mammals like moose that you can see out in the open. So our province here actually monitors moose using helicopters, which is super cool. And then hunter reporting too, where it's still okay to hunt moose, depending on where you are in the province. The province will also work with hunters to report what they're finding. Ooh, I see some really good suggestions here. Yeah, radio collars, definitely super important for mammals. Radio collars are a big thing. Poop, yeah, you can track them by poop. Man, you guys know a lot. Okay, what about this next one? This is a Blanding's turtle. So how do you guys think that scientists are monitoring for turtles? Maybe similar reptiles. Any ideas? Can't use a helicopter for these guys, right? Because they're small and they're under the water. Yeah, so there are certain traps for reptiles, for turtles, depending on what you're looking for. You can tag them. You might have seen turtles in different parts of Canada on our wildlife series or on TV. I think there was a Suzuki special on them once when they give them these little radio tags, and it looks like they're wearing a backpack. Yeah, egg nests. So scientists will often track nests of turtles so they can come back to them. They'll mark where they are, try to do it as secretly as possible. They'll mark where they are, come back and have a look. eDNA is this really cool thing where scientists take a sample of water and then they look at the DNA inside the water. And what they're looking for is basically these little fragments of turtle or other DNA that gives them a sign that the animal is there. Cool stuff. You guys know a lot. Hello, heart. Ouch, my dog just stepped on my foot. Okay, what about this creature? So I mean the plant here and not the fly, but you could answer both, I guess, if you want. This is a threadleaf sundew. It's a species at risk in Nova Scotia. It's also a carnivorous plant, which is why you see a fly here. It's eating its breakfast. How would scientists find and monitor populations of these? So ground surveys are super important for these guys. It's really hard to use, the other techniques that we've talked about for plants for obvious reasons. They grow in the ground, sometimes they're super small. If you don't know where they are, you kind of have to stumble upon these populations. And then if you're going to track them over time, you have to come back to that population and survey them using quadrat surveys or line surveys, depending on what you're looking for. And then, of course, our fly buddy here, you would net for the flies. Yeah, there's lots of traps for flies. Nice work, guys. All right, but let's talk about how you guys can help monitor wildlife at home. Scientists, of course, have a whole bunch of cool and sometimes really expensive tools at their disposal to monitor these species. But you guys can also do a lot at home to help out our scientists. And of course, that really depends on what you have available, on where you live or vacation, where you're seeing these things, and what you can ID. So here are some easy tools for citizen science, things that you might have at home already or that you can get. A notebook is an obvious one, so if you want to write down what you've seen, where you've seen it, a notebook is essential. Hand lenses. I love hand lenses. They let you look at really tiny things, and I love plants, so hand lenses are great for that. Binoculars, super important for birds and other things that are far away. Nets and jars, so if it's okay to take a sample of what you're looking at, you might want something to put it in. Field guides. I actually leave my field guides at home because they're very heavy. I like to look up things later. Your phone or GPS. Also really great tools to have. Your phone is really powerful. It has a camera, it has a GPS, and you can have those right into the field with you and take pictures of stuff. Great stuff. All right, let's talk about birds here. So you might want to remember some of these things because I'm going to pull this into our trivia later. So of course, you guys know where to find birds. I know a lot of you are bird watchers. They're in the backyard, they're in our parks, forests. You're going to want binoculars to watch a lot of birds in Nova Scotia. You might have a feeder at home. If you haven't tried calling birds, here's a trick. It's called pishing, and it sounds like psh, 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 psh. That works really well for our warblers and some of our other small songbirds. Not so well for our shorebirds, ground birds, and generally the bigger birds, but it is really great for calling over some birds. What do you guys think? As a citizen scientist, should you try to capture a bird? Do we want to net them like the scientists are? Yeah, probably not, right? Scientists are trained to handle birds safely so they don't get hurt and the birds don't get hurt. But there are ways that you guys can monitor birds at home. Can you call them over and take a picture? Yeah, that's totally okay. If it's one of the ones that you can call over, they respond, that's perfect. Ooh, what about eggs? This is kind of a tricky one. Can you take a picture of eggs? Eggs are really important for IDing certain species, especially if the bird isn't around. But what do you think about taking pictures of them? No, usually not, and there's a couple important reasons for that. One is that unfortunately in Canada and even in Nova Scotia, we do still have some poaching, and certain birds fall prey to poaching a lot. And sometimes when you take pictures of eggs, if those pictures get shared, then you might be inadvertently telling poachers where you found that cool bird. Also, you never know who's watching you from the sidelines. You might not see the bird there, but we don't want to be disturbing the mama or the papa bird who are there trying to watch out for their eggs. They wouldn't be very happy if they saw you and they're taking a picture. So generally, try to avoid. If you see them just, on your walk, that's cool, but try not to take a picture of them. Can you tell other people where you saw a bird? Is that okay? Yeah, you guys are smart. Yeah, so you can definitely tell other people. This is eBird. So this is Point Pleasant Park on eBird. This is something that the Young Naturalists Club uses a lot. This is a really cool tool. If you haven't used it yet, you can use it on your computer. There's also an app for your phone or tablet, and it basically just lets you put in what birds you saw, when, and that data goes straight to scientists to use for science. So what I really like about eBird is that I can take our group out, we pool all of our sightings, we made a list together, and then it goes into eBird, and we get to keep that list forever. So we have a running tally of all the things we've ever seen, which is kind of nice. Yeah, so like I said, you can use your phone, you can use your computer. What about birds at risk? Is it okay to share sightings of birds at risk? So this is our Canada warbler again. What do you guys think? Ooh, if you trust them. I like these answers. Yeah, it depends, kind of. It kind of does depend. So, with birds, it's a little bit of both. eBird has this really cool thing where if you put in a known species at risk, eBird will ask you, is it okay to share the location for this? And sometimes eBird just straight won't share the location because they know that they don't want people knowing where that bird was. So they will automatically skew where that bird was on the map. That's really important because something that's cool about eBird is you can go into the map, you can zoom into wherever your house is or wherever you are, and you can see what birds are around you. Of course, that wouldn't be safe for some species at risk, so that's why eBird does that. You can also contact the province directly if you see a cool bird. Reptiles, ponds, wetlands, anywhere is wet, you're going to find your turtles. Anywhere where it's nice and dry, you might find your snakes. Under stumps, in the grass, especially if we're looking for snakes. What do you guys think? When it comes to reptiles, as a citizen scientist, should we be picking them up? What do you think? Pick them up to look at them better? No, generally not. There's a couple reasons for this too. Of course, if you're trying to rescue one of these guys, that's a little different. You know, if it's safe to rescue a turtle or a snake from the road, you know, I know people do that. But generally, we don't want to be picking these animals up, or most animals up, really. One, because we don't want to stress them out. Two, cool fact about our turtles is they have salmonella on them. So if you're picking up turtles and then touching your face, you might be getting a gross infection. That's no fun. Also, if you find these guys, you know, and they're not really well hidden, they might already be kind of stressed, you know, like if they're in the middle of the road or something. So it's nice to try and help, but make sure you're being as respectful as possible to these animals. So how do we monitor them then? We can't pick them up to get a closer look. So what are some ways we can help monitor reptiles? Can you take a picture? Yeah, for sure. You see them, they're like in a pond next to you, take a picture. Can you share your location on the internet? No, this is a big no-no. Definitely not for our turtles, and that's again because of poaching. The turtles are captured a lot from the wild, even in Nova Scotia. So if we're telling people where we've seen turtles, chances are we're going to be attracting some unwanted attention. Snakes don't get quite as much attention as turtles. That might be okay, but you definitely want to be careful with our turtles or other animals that might be at risk of poaching. Now you can report them in a couple ways. So just like our birds, you can reach out to the province directly if you think you have an at-risk turtle. You can also contact the Museum of Natural History. They're always interested in your turtle sightings. And we have a couple citizen science groups in Nova Scotia too. So one, we have the Turtle Patrol in Nova Scotia. They have a Facebook group. So you can check them out and ask for help about moving turtles around, or if you found one you're concerned about. We also have sea turtles in Nova Scotia, which not everybody knows. If you see one of these guys, this is a leatherback turtle, you can reach out to the Canadian Sea Turtle Network, and they'll help you make sure that it's okay, or if it's dead, they can do an autopsy. Cool stuff. Ooh, what if you found a nest? Yeah, we don't want to be moving babies around. So if you do find a nest and you think it might not be in a great place, you can reach out to a couple folks. You could ask the museum, you could ask any of your scientist friends. We also have this great organization called Hope for Wildlife. You can ask them, and then they'll probably ask you more questions and then think about whether they want to intervene, do something. But chances are, if you've found a nest, they're probably okay, especially when it comes to reptiles. You know, I know snapping turtles really like to nest in the sides of driveways, which seems like it might not be a really good place, but, you know, if you're being careful of them, if it's your driveway, that might not be a totally bad place for them. And then snakes, you know, they make nests sometimes just in our backyards. So if you know they're there, you can avoid them and be careful, so you're not mowing the lawn over them or something, but they're usually okay. Amphibians. Okay, let's talk about amphibians. So obviously these guys like it really wet. You're going to find them in ponds, wetlands, under logs, which is where I found this little guy, garden mulch, anywhere where it's kind of damp, and vernal pools, which are those boggy areas in our forests. Can you pick these guys up? Should we pick up amphibians? What do you think? Yeah, not really, right? There's a couple reasons for this. Of course, don't want to stress them out. Scientists are trained to pick up these animals, whereas we might not be. But amphibians, you guys probably know, they absorb stuff through their skin. And if you have anything on your hand, you might actually be putting that right into their poor little bodies because they absorb stuff so quickly. So we probably don't want to be picking them up, again, unless you're rescuing them from somewhere. But there are ways we can help scientists monitor these guys. What about taking a picture and then sharing your location? Take a picture, you put it on Facebook. Yeah, so that's okay. We actually don't have any at-risk amphibians in Nova Scotia, at least not right now, or we haven't have any confirmed sightings of them. And you can share them to apps like iNaturalist. You can put them on social media. iNaturalist is a really cool tool that we use at the Young Naturalists Club that is kind of like eBird. It lets you post your sightings, where you found them, just like this. So I pulled up the eastern redback salamander here, so you can see the map is showing places where people have found eastern redback salamanders, and a couple of those are actually mine. So very much like eBird, you can go in, you have your own profile. If you're not using this already, it's a super fun tool. iNaturalist is also really great for learning how to ID species, because it lets you take a picture and then it will suggest IDs for you. So if you see something in the field, it could be anything. It could be a salamander, it could be another amphibian, or it could be something that you think maybe isn't alive. It'll tell you what it thinks it is. A really powerful tool. Again, you can use it on your computer, you can use it on your phone, there's an app. Let's talk about plants really quickly before we go to trivia. Plants, mushrooms, and lookalikes. You're going to find these in our forests, in our parks, maybe in your backyard. You'll find them on tree bark, especially if we're talking about lichens. Pretty much everywhere. Plants, mushrooms, lookalikes, they really dominate our world. As a citizen scientist, can you poke, touch them, squish them? What do you guys think? Yeah, kind of depends, right? Lots of stuff is safe to touch. We don't really have a whole lot of things in Nova Scotia that are going to hurt you if you touch them. Poison ivy is obviously one exception to that. But yeah, there's lots of stuff that you can touch as long as you're sure that you're not going to be hurting it or hurting yourself. Can you take a picture and share your location? Yeah, so that's totally okay. And iNaturalist is also really great for this. So iNaturalist, kind of like eBird, will bring up flags for you if it thinks it's a species that we don't want to be sharing the location of, and it can help you blur the location. It's a really great tool. So there are some things that we didn't talk about, like fish, our microorganisms, and then of course things that aren't really alive, like our rocks and strange stars, but those are all things that you can help scientists monitor. So I know that we don't really have like an iNaturalist for things like rocks, but you do have the internet, which is a really powerful tool. And if you've ever been out to our Young Naturalist Club outings, you know that citizen science is a big part of what we do. We go out, we look at things, we write down what we found, and then we share that information with either scientists that we know, or we just put it out on Facebook or on some other platform, and we see if it gets picked up. Really, sharing the science is what it's all about, because that's how you learn more, and of course that's how we learn more about the world. So go out, you can take pictures, you can draw what you see. It's a really great way of learning about these things. Make measurements, and then you can share your findings if it's responsible to do so. So that was it for citizen science today, guys. So I hope you either learned a little bit about citizen science, or maybe you're thinking about doing more at home, or maybe you knew everything that we talked about today and you just dominated trivia. All of those are good. We do have a citizen science challenge going on right now at the Young Naturalists Club. If you guys are looking for something to do, we have a birding challenge on for Migratory Bird Day, which is coming up on May 9th. So if you're out there seeing any birds, if you see at least 3 different kinds of birds, we want to know about it. So you can either send in photos of what you see, you can draw pictures of them, and then send them in to us for a chance to be entered to win one of our grand draw prizes if you're on eBird. Or if you just want to send in your pictures or photos and not do anything on eBird, we will send you one of our bird activity books, which are super fun. So you can check that out on Facebook. I'll put a link in the chat here as well. And yeah, I hope you guys can join us next week when we're going to be joined by Birds Canada. Laura Bartlett from Birds Canada is going to be with us to talk all about piping plovers, which should be really exciting. I'm hoping she'll tell us a lot more about how we monitor species at risk when it comes to birds.